Number 6 is going to start. We are here live on Awesemo.com to break this fight card live before lock. Of course, that is the fighter Pete Rogers Jr. I am Jason Floyd. Hope everyone's having a good Saturday. Be sure to start hitting those like buttons. Let's get those likes up here, right here on YouTube. Pete, obviously some changes over the past 24 hours or so. We had 3 fighters initially miss weight. 2 ultimately miss weight. 1 fighter does step back on the scale, make weight. That's Tim Means. Does that alter your thought process at all with Dariush and Sarpoli missing weight?
So for Dariush missing weight, he's a grappler. I'm trying to think that maybe it's strategy based. It's always hard to try to, decipher what's strategy, what's a bad cut, what's hiding an injury. You don't really know, but I don't worry about that fight too much. It's a tough fight. It definitely is. But as far as the Staropoli Means, I didn't like the way Means looked, man. I just didn't. And I know that I was talking about Means as an underdog, as a guy that could come through for you for value. I sprinkled him in, but I feel like Staropoli might be my pick for that fight now, and test that chin Means.
I'm sitting here at home today. I'm scrolling through my Twitter timeline, and I see this tweet come across my timeline of my love today for Nasrat Haqparast and Alexi Oleinik. First off, I don't have love for Alexi Oleinik here. Yeah. Let's make that self clear. Look, I think this is the rare main event that I don't think you have to roster. I know, looking at it in the premium Slack channel that we have, and by the way, if you're in that premium Slack channel, you want to ask a question for the show, hit those up there. I've got it right in front of my screen, so we'll get those questions as well. This is my thing about that fight is it's history. You look at the history of Derek Lewis, you can't just sit there and just pencil Derek Lewis in all your lineups. You just can't.
Well, I definitely have a lot more Derek Lewis exposure than I do Alexi Oleinik, and
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, but I don't know, man. I look at this fight, I look at how they match up, and I understand that Derek Lewis has been taken down quite a bit. But as far as standing up, I think that Alexi Oleinik is literally a punching bag for Derek Lewis. It's just whose cardio is better and who can implement their game plan, because if you think about the Fabricio Verdum fight, obviously completely different style, but he went out there slinging leather, trying to throw off Fabricio Verdum and then start to mix in the takedowns. Now, if he goes wide like that against Derek Lewis, I think Derek Lewis catches him and puts him away early. That's just my take on the fight, but I understand your concern with Derek Lewis's output, averaging 61.8 fantasy points. It's not the best, and a third round finish is possibly the worst thing that could happen. This fight is not going 5 rounds. If it goes 5 rounds, I will be absolutely shocked. Somebody's getting finished. It's just, does Lewis score enough? Because if Alexi Oleinik wins, he'll break the slate.
Look, my thing continues on the same question of Thursday. The over-under number is 85 points on Derek Lewis. Where are you going?
I'm saying over. I am. I think he's getting it done. I can't imagine. I think Derek Lewis doesn't want to wrestle, obviously, and I can't imagine I can't imagine him not going all out when Alexi Oleinik is trying to take him down. I think that he's in good shape. I think he'll make him pay. Give me Lewis here.
Look, I have much more shares of Derek Lewis than I do Alexi Oleinik, but I also have lineups where I don't have anyone in the main event. And Morgan in the premium Slack chat says, how much would you fade the main event percentage-wise? I'm fading it probably 20%.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I think that's reasonable. I think that's always like an interesting take, is to try to avoid the chalky picks, and somebody's going to have Lewis or Oleinik in their lineup for the most part. So I actually thought you'd say higher than avoiding it 20%.
I'm just going to say, if you believe Derek Lewis is going to win in the first round, April 10th, 2016.
Who'd he fight?
That would have been against Gabriel Gonzaga. So here's his first round wins in the UFC. Gabriel Gonzalez, Damian Grabowski, and Guido Innocence, and Jack May. They all have something really in common.
Yeah, they're not fighting in the UFC no more. I get it, but
you think of this. Okay, so let's look at his last 3, 4, 5, 6. His last 7 fights. 5 of the 7 have made it to the 3rd round. So you got a TKO against Marcin Tybura, 2 minutes and 48 seconds in the 3rd round. Decision against Francis Ngannou. KO against Volkov with 11 seconds left in the fight. Losses against Cormier, 2nd round submission. Loss to Junior Dos Santos, 2nd round TKO. Split decision against Blagoy-Ivanov. Decision win against Ilir Latifi.
Yeah, I think as long.
And how many of those fights? And I'm guilty of this as well. I probably had Derek Lewis in 6 of those 7 matchups.
Mm-hmm.
Cormier had been the only one I would not have had him in.
Yeah, I didn't have him in that one. I think as long as he gets it done within 2 at 8,700, I would imagine he does pay off his salary.
If Oleinik can get the job done, and I know you wrote this on Twitter and even in the premium Slack, is it's going to happen within under 1.5 rounds. If this thing gets past, I think 7 minutes, the less you like Oleinik. And we saw against Verdum, slowed down, got off to a great start against Verdum. But to me, he's got to close the distance. He's got to get this fight to the ground. If this fight stays on the feet, Derek Lewis knocks him out at some point.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Well, I'm glad you agree with me. I'm glad to hear that you've come to your senses on something.
Well, I'm just saying, I took an aggressive stance this week, and I don't have much Olynyk.
Yeah, but of course, if you are in the premium Slack there, fire those questions there. Also, fire them up on YouTube. We'll get to those as well. Ty, I know he hit me up on social media after the strategy show. Couldn't watch us, and all good, Ty. But of course, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. Let's get those likes over 75 here in the next 10 minutes or so. Ty says, is a lineup with Olynyk, Sanchez, James too risky for cash games on FanDuel? I love Justin James on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think.
And why do I feel bad about that?
I don't know. I think it's because of the Matador and the Bull. As far as the Sanchez pick, I don't know if you need to go to that pick because he's a slow-paced fighter, doesn't really score the best. I understand that we did like him in the matchup, but his finishing ability is only 69%. He hasn't been taken down in the UFC yet, and that's Turman's game, is to throw big strikes into takedowns and clinches. But I feel like on FanDuel, there's plenty of value. I don't know why you would have to throw Sanchez in there.
Thoughts on Chris Weidman coming from the premium Slack account?
I don't know.
I think I have too much shares of Chris Weidman.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of Chris Weidman. I don't have.
I think it's the price point.
Yeah.
And I look at this matchup and I say his back is against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
1-5 in his last 6. No clue where he goes from here if he doesn't get the win. This is where I wonder, do we see Chris Weidman go back to his wrestling roots? Now, I think what we should note about his training camp for this one is that he spent 3 weeks down in South Carolina with Stephen Thompson. The last 3 weeks up, with the Sarah Longo team, Ray Longo. And of course, Ray, as far as I know, is with him in Vegas. Ray did not go out for Aljamain Sterling. He's got COVID concerns just for his own health. But I just, as I was putting together all my lineups and going through what I have on the various platforms, I'm like, man, I've got a crap ton of Chris Weidman, and it's one of these things of like, man, you feel so uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, I'm at 8,000. If he wins, Jason, I don't see how he doesn't pay off a salary based on his game. Any coach for Chris Weidman should be saying, let's strike just enough and set up your takedowns. Akhmedov has been taken down plenty of times in the UFC, but it's going to come with some grit and some toughness, and Weidman's going to have to dig deep. But I think that he can do it, and he has the larger frame, 5-inch reach advantage, 2-inch height advantage. If Weidman wins, it's via takedowns and ground and pound and control because Akhmedov has been TKO'd in the past. So at 8,000, I don't hate the play, but I would not say he's a lock by any means because, man, he's 1-5 in his past 6. Akhmedov literally can touch him on the chin, and we don't know how he's going to respond to it. and that's just the truth. Akhmedov probably will come in here with some decent ownership at 8,200, preying on the weak Chris Weidman, who has been finished a lot. But for me, I like Weidman in the fight, man. I just don't know how he slipped this far. If, like we mentioned on the strategy show, if he loses this fight, it's a wrap.
Morgan asked us, both of us, says, are we avoiding the first fight this week? I have probably 10% shares on this one, and I have both sides. I don't feel comfortable on either side. Obviously, we saw Erwin Rivera make his UFC debut fighting short nose up at 45 against Gigi Chikaze. Now back at his natural weight class of 135 pounds. Taking on Ali here, who's fought over in Brave. Has put together 5 wins in a row. This is one of those matchups I don't feel good at Erwin Rivera at 8,900, and I think it's just because of the price point.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him perform okay against Giga Chikadze, but the reality is he took a ton of shots and got lit up by Giga Chikadze, who's an amazing kickboxer. That's the truth. But he stuck in there and it was tough, and he kept throwing and has a decent volume. The unknown here is how Casey, will respond to his UFC debut. UFC jitters are a real thing. How does he stack up against true UFC competition? And if he can't get the fight to the mat, it could be a very, very long night for him, because Rivera should have the striking advantage. But 7,300, the takedowns seem to be there. If you look at Rivera's previous fights, he gets taken down quite a bit and gets controlled quite a bit. And I think Alexi can do that here, training with 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu as well. He's kind of bounced around from fight ready to here to there. So I think he's going to be pretty prepared. It's so tough because you don't know how a UFC debut is going to go. But give me Alexi sprinkled in a few of my lineups just because you're searching for value on this slate.
Ty asked for a cash score FanDuel. I think you look at some of the top end guys. I look at Kevin Holland. I look at Yusuf Zalal.
Yep.
If I was going to look middle range, looking in that 16 to 14 range. Andrew Sanchez at 15. Go a little lower, Justin James at 13. Anybody else I haven't mentioned that interests you?
So FanDuel, right? Let's think about it. You get awarded more if you are a striker and you're trying to prevent takedowns, working on takedown defense. So what matchups is somebody going to be trying to take down the other opponent? And it's Alexi Oleinik against Derek Lewis. I think Derek Lewis is sneaky. 21, because how many people really want to pay up for that, and they're scared about him getting taken down and controlled. But if he keeps it on the feet and he wins, it's via knockout most likely. I don't think it's going to a decision. As far as Stewart or Pitolo, maybe Pitolo's sneaky because Stewart could look to take it to the mat and try to, just get away from the dangerous hands, the coconut bombs of Maki Pitolo.
Don't get into a firefight, Darren Stewart. Don't get into. I've got a lot of Darren Stewart shares too.
Yeah, me too. I have plenty of Darren Stewart, and I actually like him in the fight because, man, that Callan Potter fight of Maki Pitolo really sticks out. And I know he may have had a bad weight cut or whatever, but Callan Potter literally had no business outstriking Maki Pitolo. So I wonder how Darren Stewart fares in the fight. Stolyarenko is an interesting fighter that I've started, since Thursday, I've really laid my eyes on, because she's aggressive. Even striking, she goes for it, like right off the whistle, goes there, gets in her opponent's faces, will even jump guard, flying arm bars, just to get them on the mat and search for her patented armbar finishes. So at 13 over there on FanDuel, she's awesome. 7,400 on DraftKings as well as a long shot submission threat. Kuniskaya at 8,800. The volume's there, but man, low-level women's MMA, anything can happen. And how many weeks are we going to get burned by that? I think Stolyarenko could be a nice little underdog here.
Garrett asked about DraftKings GPP core fighters.
Oh,
so
God.
as I was building my lineups, Apparas was a guy that was a core for me. Justin James was.
Can I talk on the Hawk Prost fight, because I know you're really heavy and in love with Hawk Prost, and it's okay because he's so good. But when you're
I've already got a counter to you on this one.
Okay,
I already know what you're gonna say. Fire away. All right, come on.
Okay. When you are facing an elite wrestler, sometimes you're gun shy, because if you overextend, your opponents can come in and snatch your leg or dive in, grab a hold of you, work for underhooks, and get a hold of you, press you against the cage. So I would say Hawk Prost probably goes out there with a sniper-like mentality of trying to pop shot him from the outside and moving. Because if he goes in there with a high volume attack, Munoz literally will change levels and take him down. And it's a winnable spot here for Hawk Prost. It's a big, big jump for Munoz. I don't think Munoz is ready for it, but I would say just be careful here.
Do you forget watching him on the Contender Series?
Yeah, I know, but I'm not saying that Munoz is. But Munoz, how many times did he take down Nick Newell? And Nick Newell is a very, very good wrestler. And I know Hawk Prost has been training with Marco Madsen and preparing for this bout. But let me say, just be careful. Hawk Prost should win this fight, but wrestling changes striking.
I think Munoz is a total fade on DraftKings.
Really?
Okay, so he starts 3-0, all first round wins.
Yeah.
Since then, since he started fighting better competition, he hasn't gotten a finish.
Okay, but you don't need to finish at 7,200, Jason, if he's going the takedown well. It's not my favorite spot to target. I don't think I have more than a few Munoz lineups, just because I think it's a very, very tough UFC debut. But the value is there and the potential is there for his style at 7,200.
Morgan asked is Kevin Holland worth the price this week? I say yes. I've seen Buckley fight multiple times. I think where we definitely sometimes we can fall in love with the last thing we saw or hate the last thing we saw.
Yeah.
And we saw Buckley with a great knockout win on LFA. Now, that was a rematch for the first time against, I want to say his last name was Gosh, that he fought, that he lost. In his time in Bellator, maybe I was too high on him coming into Bellator, and maybe that's why I thought that way. I do think this is a good spot for Kevin Holland. My only concern with Kevin Holland is more of you were preparing to fight last week, and now that fight doesn't happen. You know, did you put on extra weight that Saturday night, or were you still in that mindset of like, man, I'm fighting next week. I've got to be strict to this diet.
I'm pretty sure the way that he was speaking after the fight, he was keeping a very serious state of mind and basically telling the UFC like, look, I need to get back in there. I was willing to fight Ed Herman. Joaquin Buckley here has a good record and is dangerous. But I think this is a huge step up in competition against Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland should be able to work his game. And as long as he doesn't get overzealous, because we've seen Kevin Holland have great positions and then just get a little too crazy and lose them. So you think of the fight against Brendan Allen. Perhaps Buckley resorts to takedowns here, big shots into takedowns. He has a very, very nice win against Vinicius de Jesus on Bellator, who is the CES champ and is somebody I think will be on the Contender Series pretty soon. So 6,800, is it impossible? No. I just think it's very, very unlikely that he goes in here, upsets Holland.
Of course, we all know that football is right around the corner, Pete, and we at Awesemo are excited to bring our inaugural season-long fantasy football and best ball draft kit using the same tools that have helped make Alex Awesemo Baker the #1 daily fantasy sports player. We have compiled a package that will revolutionize the way you prepare for fantasy football drafts. For only $29.95, our draft kit includes everything you need to prep, including rankings, projections, sleeper tools, loads of content from our experts, and the Draft Wingman, which will update team projections in real time based on who you've already drafted. As an added bonus, new FFPC members get a $35 credit when they sign up for the Awesemo Draft Kit, which basically makes it free. Don't miss this one. Dominate your fantasy and best ball leagues today. Also, you always hear me and Pete talking about all these great tools we use over at Awesemo Plus, and get a Awesemo Plus MMA Weekly Pass for $8.95. That includes full access to Awesemo's leading fighter projections, ownership projections, and the top fighters tool. There's never been a better time for MMA DFS, so step into the octagon today. Do want to appreciate Mike with the donation there in the super chat. He says, hey guys, best FanDuel play under $15. Also, Buckley seems like a good underdog against Holland with back-to-back weight cuts. Can Munoz upset with his southpaw? First up, in terms of FanDuel under $15. So are we including $15, or are we actually 14 and under?
Yeah, let's say 14 and under, because for me, I think Stolyarenko is somebody that I really started looking at. Scott Holtzman too is interesting, and I don't think we've talked about Scott Holtzman. He's a very, very talented fighter. Doesn't have the best finishing ability, has 50% finish rate, but he is going up against a guy who has been knocked out in the past and just missed weight. Perhaps Holtzman can keep it on the feet and avoid the takedowns of Dariush and expose that chin of his. So $7,100 or $14 Scott Holtzman isn't a bad pick as well.
Yeah, I was actually peeking at his Instagram and training in North Carolina and also in Knoxville. That was something I was kind of looking at to see just exactly where he had been training at. Favorite MVP for FanDuel cash games? Okay. So I was putting together FanDuel lineups before we started.
Yeah.
And I was running some Fantasy Cruncher, seeing what Fantasy Cruncher was coming up with, ones that I just weren't, unclicking the ones that, you got to learn how to use Fantasy Cruncher is a big thing. Kevin Holland was coming up in every MVP spot. So I was like, who I went contrarian with in the MVP spot?
Laureano Staropoli.
Yusuf Zalal.
Yeah, I like it. I like Zalal a lot. I like him. That's interesting, too, because let me tell you, Peter Barrett will stand and trade until he starts to get lit up on the feet. And Peter Barrett even searches for takedowns and resorts to takedowns. So you're talking about high damage, high accumulation of strikes, defended takedowns in a winnable fight. Too quick for Peter Barrett. I like Zalal in that spot. I also like Laureano Staropoli. He's a striker going up against Tim Means. I think that's interesting, an interesting FanDuel play.
Yeah. I mean, look, you gotta try to look contrarian in some matter. Holland, Sean says Holland and Lewis should be the most popular MVPs. I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
By the way, I really do not like the captain contest on DraftKings.
It's tough, man. I don't like it.
And why do I? And I play it every week.
I play it so I can help out you guys out there and try to see what's working. And it makes me roster. For me, it made me roster that Akhmedov Weidman fight. Like, I was searching for low value, and I'm like, man, I really got to play Weidman. I guess I do. I don't feel comfortable about it though.
Someone says odds on a fighter passing out on the way to the octagon. Let's please hope that does not happen.
Yeah, I say not happening, minus 2,000.
Cameron says Weidman or Sanchez. Oof.
Weidman has the better upside, 100%. I would say Sanchez is the safer pick, though.
I would say GPP Weidman, cash Sanchez.
Agree.
Means or Weidman for FanDuel $16 range.
Say again?
Tim Means or Chris Weidman for FanDuel $16 range.
Ay, goodness gracious, they're both in bad matchups. You'd think the veteran Tim Means can get it done based on volume and resorting to takedowns. But when Staropoli throws his hands, Jason, Staropoli, he can crack. And I wonder how he will respond. I just remember Nico Price knocking out Tim Means with a weird hook out of nowhere. And I know Price has some power, but I think Staropoli just is better standing up. So in that situation, it hurts me to say, give me Weidman.
I like this comment, and I totally agree with what the Lee says. Fading the main event on FanDuel is easier to do. And the reason I like that is it's $21 for Lewis, $16 for Olynyk. Where on DraftKings, Olynyk's price makes him intriguing.
Yeah.
I don't find his $16 price range on FanDuel intriguing.
I agree, and I think that makes sense because you're probably guessing Lewis gets it done, but at $21, does he really pay off? And do people lower than 21 exceed his output? And they probably do.
Someone asked about who is our best pick for captain mode on DK.
Goodness gracious!
So if you want Kevin Holland, you got to pay up $14,700. I mean, Derek Lewis at $12,600. Not, that's probably a decent price. Is it Star Poli $11,700?
I have Lewis in mind, but Star Poli I would look at as somebody. I think for that contest, right, you have to look at either a Holtzman or Stolyarenko or a Patolo in your lineups, obviously. So, man, it's tough. It's definitely a tough fight because the Holtzman Dariush is very interesting.
Yeah. Chris says, Tucker James giving me pause. I think the winner could score nicely, though. I do think the winner. I think that is a GPP fight.
Yeah, I mean, man, Tucker literally got destroyed in that one fight. And I think James can replicate that. I think as long as he can get his hands on him and touch him. And Tucker has incredible footwork. But when the going gets tough, I think that my money would be on James.
Someone asked about what the ownership for Kunitskaya was looking like on DraftKings. Says if it's low, I want the leverage. 24% is what we're projecting her at right now.
I'd say that's okay, I guess.
Someone asked Weidman in the optimal.
Ooh, if he wins, I would imagine. Can't you see him taking down Akhmedov and ground and pounding him?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like getting behind him, riding him, and throwing uppercuts. Yeah.
Morgan says, Pete, talk me into how Coconut Bombs gets the win. It worked for Doom, so we need this again, Pete.
Man, Patola. That's Jason's boy. I don't know what to expect from Patola because you have incredible performance against Charles Byrd in a very underwhelming performance against Calvin Potter. And Stewart's coming off of a loss. But in the UFC, he looked tough, looked like he can withstand damage and get takedowns when he needed it. I feel like my slight edge is to Stewart in the fight.
My edge is to Stewart. I think he's got the grappling advantage.
Yeah.
I think, I would have to imagine that Stewart's team does not have a game plan of let's make this a boxing fight. Let's make this an MMA fight. Let's show all of our abilities. If it becomes a boxing fight, you get Maki's chances to win this fight, to me, go up tremendously.
Yeah. He should have the volume advantage. Trying to pull up some numbers here. Yeah, I think that Patolo has the volume advantage, and at that price, if he wins, he's totally going to kill his salary. He threw 155 strikes in the Calvin Potter fight. That is insane. That was a stand-up fight. Only landed 60 of them. And then if you look at somebody like a Darren Stewart, he threw 119 strikes against Deron Wynn and landed 57. So not the best accuracies for these guys, but Darren Stewart can make close rounds, his rounds, if he goes to the takedown well.
Question next up, we have got this from Samuel. Will Olynyk submit Lewis, or better yet, are we going to see the same thing he did to Verdum?
He does that against Lewis, I will be shocked. That is such a stupid game plan. Why would you do that? He can do it just to get Lewis's hands up to shoot on underneath and grab a hold of the legs. But I can't imagine that being with Fabricio Verdum, right? The reason he stayed up on the feet is because I'm going to get my takedowns when I feel like I have him tired. But I don't want to go down there with possibly the best submission practitioner in the heavyweight division when he's fresh and get potentially triangled, armbarred, or submitted. You saw how he did it to Gustafsson. Alexi Oleinik is a big guy, but should be at a big size disadvantage here against Derek Lewis.
Morgan says, if Omari Akhmedov wins, is it by decision?
I don't know, man. I don't know how Weidman's going to take a shot. I really don't.
If you tell me Omari Akhmedov wins, I think it's by knockout. It's hard. It's hard to have faith in Chris's chin at this point.
It is tough. This whole fight card is like crossroads for a ton of people. You think of Tim Means, where he's at in his career, facing some knockout losses. Chris Weidman, more of a crossroads than any fighter on this card. How does he respond? I don't know, bro. I don't know. I have Weidman a little bit more than Akhmedov, though.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. With Lewis looking slimmer, doesn't that leave home open to more takedowns and won't be able to get back up? Now, one of the reasons he slimmed down is he was getting hurt so often, especially with his back. And he's talked about how he has, him being slimmed down has actually helped him out a lot.
Yeah.
So and look, and Derek Lewis understands this is a big opportunity for him. If he can go out there and get the win, he puts himself right back up, in that 2-ish wins away.
Yeah. Okay. So I picked Oleinik to upset Fabricio Verdum. He had no business beating Fabricio Verdum, because if Fabricio took that fight seriously, Fabricio wins that 9 out of 10 times. Against Derek Lewis, who seems to start taking his career seriously, he's dropping weight so that it's less impacting on his joints, his knees, his back, everything. You're starting to see him in better shape. I don't think that translates to him having worse takedown defense. I think it's going to possibly translate to him having a better gas tank and a better mindset going into the fight instead of just slinging leather. I don't know, but Derek Lewis is nice for me at 8,700. I know you're kind of a little hesitant, but I like him.
Next up, we have Samuel says, who will have the biggest upset tonight?
Ooh. Let me look at the odds.
Is it Storolenko? Would that be the best pick?
Yeah, I say Stolyarenko is possibly the best upset pick. It's not an easy fight, but I think she can do it.
So over the last 24 hours, she has the biggest line movement on the betting side of this thing.
Yeah, I like her.
The top 3 movements are her, Andrew Sanchez, and Beneil Dariush.
Probably because people realize that Andrew Sanchez hasn't been taken down, and that's Wellington Turman's game. Beneil Dariush, maybe
that wouldn't be a big upset. He's a plus 115 underdog, Andrew Sanchez.
Yeah, no.
Let's look at the fighters who are over 2-1 betting underdogs. So we got Scott Holtzman, Joaquin Buckley, Alex Munoz, and Peter Barrett.
I don't think Barrett does it. I think it would be Munoz, Stolyarenko, or Holtzman. Those are 3 underdogs that, even for DraftKings, I would start to look at.
What 7K fighters do we have the most confidence in?
None.
7K.
None. I say Justin James.
I would say James. Sanchez, I like more in cash than I do GPP. They would be the two that I would label.
I'd say James and Stolyarenko. I have a decent amount of those two paired.
Yeah. Happaras or Zalal, FanDuel, please.
Give me Zalal.
Yeah, I'm thinking Zalal too.
Wow. Okay.
Dariush or Zalal on DraftKings?
Zalal. Holtzman's a very good fighter. Holtzman is a very good striker, very good wrestler. This is a tough fight for Dariush, and Holtzman seems a little irritated that Dariush is like overlooking him and saying, man, I wish I had a ranked opponent. I need to be amongst the elite. And I actually think that he's right, but I hope he's not overlooking Scott Holtzman.
Someone in the chat was asking us, how do we like Sanchez? Seems like he has a good chance to be in the optimal. This is my concern about that fight is both fighters don't exactly have a great gas tank.
Yeah, he gets tired too quickly, Jason.
Yeah, I like Sanchez, but my concern could be is he may be up 20-18 after 10 minutes of fighting, and we might be sweating out the final 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay, so let's look at some of his previous scores. He's fighting a guy who has a good ground game, is going to look to wrestle him, but he does have good takedown defense. So the fight against Khalil Roundtree, he was obviously the superior grappler. Khalil's a good striker. He scored 90 in a decision win. Trevor Smith, he scored 67 in a decision win. The interesting fight is Anthony Smith. He scored 60.5 in a loss, which is crazy. But like decision wins, Marcus Perez, 66.5. Wasn't able to finish Marcus Perez. Marc-Andre Barrios, who's really more of a striker than a grappler, scored only 85. So perhaps this stays on the feet and more strikes are thrown. Almost 200 significant strikes are attempted and probably around 80 or 90 are landed.
Once again, Mike, appreciate your donation there in the YouTube super chat. He says, James or Storolenko for $13 on FanDuel. You guys worried about Dariush's durability? Also, do you see him with a submission win? Look, I think if Dariush wins, it is by submission. Look, we have seen Dariush get rocked on the feet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a concern. In terms of James and Storolenko, I would feel more comfortable. If you told me it was one or the other, I'd feel more comfortable with James, even though look, they're both in tough matchups. James does have the wrestling in his back pocket, but when I've talked to him about it, his thing is basically been my wrestling is kind of it's my defensive wrestling. He wants to keep the fight on the feet. He wants to throw hands. And I thought one of the most interesting things he said to me leading up to this fight was that he is obsessed with Gavin Tucker.
Yeah. Hopefully he's not too obsessed that he gets away from his game plan and he's worried about what Gavin's doing and not what he's doing. That's always a little challenge mentally. As far as Scott Holtzman, I wanted to bring this up. You talked about how tough that fight is for him and how Beneil could be a nice pick. And I would agree. I like Beneil in the fight, but I'll have some Scott Holtzman shares because taken down 5 times by Nick Lentz, very good fighter, but nowhere near the grappling credentials of Beneil Dariush. Taken down 3 times against Michael McBride. Josh Emmett took him down 8 times. Drew Dober took him down 5 times. Now, if a superior grappler, like a guy who's so accomplished with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and is such a sneaky submission threat, he's going to take you back. He's going to, take you down and then take your back or put you in a bad spot and try to work on some submissions. Whose gas tank holds up? How does the gas tank of Beneil Dariush hold up after missing weight? But Dariush should win this fight by taking him down and, working towards a finish. So at 9,100, he's definitely an upside pick, but Holtzman's tough, man. And if Holtzman has the better gas tank, he could definitely TKO a very tired Dariush.
Yeah, just looking at expected outcomes, because we were also asked about, James more than Storolenko. So Storolenko, 10% to win by decision, 20% to win by finish. Justin James, 26% by finish, 18% by decision.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So that's something to pay attention to there. FanDuel Cash, Nazareth and Weidman or Beneil and Stewart?
God.
Ooh. I might side Beneil and Stewart.
Or Nas and Weidman?
I think I have more faith in Darren Stewart than I do Chris Weidman.
Oh my God.
1-5, bro.
I know, but oh my God, really?
When's the last time Chris Weidman's looked good in a fight?
I mean, he has his moments, Jason. I mean, outside of the outcome, he has his moments. And
think about his one win in his last 6 fights.
yeah, Calvin.
Calvin rocked him early in that fight.
Who doesn't Calvin rock?
I thought you were going to say who doesn't rock Chris.
Oh, no. The list is long, bro. The list is long. You know, I would say Nas and Weidman, and I'm not a big Nas rock guy this week. I think that he should win, but the takedowns are definitely a game changer.
You're going to hate when he gets like 120 points.
Who, Nasrat?
Yeah.
I just told you I'd pick him. You're not picking him. You're picking freaking Darren Stewart against Maki Pitolo. That's a tough fight. This fight card is possibly my least favorite fight card of all time.
Which duo is best?
Yeah.
Storolenko and Staropoli, or Weidman and James? This is DraftKings.
Give me the first one. Stolyarenko and Staropoli.
I go Weidman James.
This guy. How are you going to hate? Okay. Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah,
You're over here hating on me for saying that Weidman can win the fight. And then you're over here in 2 situations back to back.
Look. He can win the fight. But you don't have a ton of confidence in him.
This guy.
Do you have a ton of confidence in Storolenko and Kunitskaya?
I think Stolyarenko can.
Silence is deafening over there.
I think Stolyarenko can pull it off 100%.
Yeah, yeah. There's some fights that I could sit there and yeah. Favorite core for DraftKings single entry tournaments. Core DraftKings.
So single entry, right?
Yeah.
Are you avoiding the main event? I say no.
I might.
Oh my God.
No,
Okay.
I'm just trying to be contrarian. I'm thinking a majority of people will have Lewis or Olynyk in their lineup. Mm-hmm. That's why.
Yeah, we spoke about it on Thursday. You can pivot off of the ownership. But if either one of these guys go out there and do what we're expecting to do, I think 90-point upside for either one.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up the most accurate. So, Derek Lewis, 41% ownership. And Alexi Oleinik, 27%.
That's some heavy ownership, guys.
That's what I'm saying. I would say if I'm looking to be contrarian, especially in a single entry, how am I going to have that unique lineup?
You have other fighters you feel really confident in?
Yes. Well, we all know I'm loving Nasrat in this spot.
Okay.
I think coming up with a lineup of him, Zalal, and James and Sanchez together.
What's the score for Sanchez you're predicting? Because it's going the distance, most likely.
I think if you get anything above 80, you're happy.
His cardio is such a threat. Like,
he
is such a 2-round fighter.
No.
I agree with you on James, though. Like, I'm heavy on James, and I think it's more of what I saw in the Gavin Tucker loss than anything.
Lewis or Nasrat? I think the ceiling is higher for Nasrat than it is Lewis.
I would agree with you on that, but give me Lewis.
Someone asked if this is a smaller cage. Yes, it is the smaller cage. It's a 25-foot cage. All the fights at the Apex are in the 25-footer. Has Derek Lewis fought in it before? And could people be underestimating his output due to potential increased pace?
It's a great question.
Let me look up Derek Lewis.
Who asked that? That is a great question.
That would come from Dylan.
Dylan, good work, man. That is some nice little analysis.
Off the top of my head, I don't. Let me just kind of look at some of the fight cards he's been on.
I know.
247 would have been a big cage. 244 big cage.
He never has. I can tell you that for a fact, Jason.
Because he's fought mostly on pay-per-views.
That's what I'm saying. He never has. That's a great question, though. So, 2 big guys.
Okay, he would have.
When?
2014, when he beat Guido Innocence. That was an Ultimate Fighter. That would have likely been at the Palms, which was always a small cage. Oh, that was at Mandalay Bay. It might have been.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he ever has. That's a great question. It will force the action for Alexi Oleinik and Derek Lewis. Now, it could be a sloppy fight, but give me Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at these fight cards, there's not one that sticks out to me and says definitely small cage. I would say you're probably looking at a 30-foot cage, but no, as you said, very good question. Doesn't Ali have a big advantage on the ground? 7,300 seems like a good upside.
Definitely has a big advantage on the ground. Just how does he get it there? Does he keep it there? Can he withstand the shots from Rivera and the pace? How does it respond to his UFC debut, man? But I have plenty Al Casey at 7,300.
Someone asked, does Munoz usually win by TKO decision or sub? He started his career with 3 first-round finishes. I want to say 2 were submissions. 1 was TKO KO, but since then, 3 decisions.
It'd be a decision if he beats Hawk Prost.
Yes. If Patolo gets the early KO, he has to be in the optimal right. I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Someone says I've got so much Patolo and it scares me. Yeah, that would definitely scare me. You can't get that Calvin Potter fight out of your brain with him. You just can't.
I'm saying, bro, like, okay, I'm not hating on Charles Bird, right?
Mm-hmm.
He kind of has started to look for a ways out when the going gets tough. So how much do you really take from that fight? You know what I'm saying? Like, how much can you really take from a guy, say Darren Stewart, who's not going to quit? I don't know, man. Give me Stewart. Slight lean.
Of course, be sure to give Awesemo a follow on social media, as we'll be providing free Awesemo Plus player projections for NBA, MLB, PGA, MMA, and more on our Instagram feed, which is at Awesemo_com, and our Awesemo Facebook page daily. So make sure to give them a follow. And the fighter that they are profiling today is Nazareth. So be sure to check out that. Also, be sure to hit that thumbs up button here on YouTube. That does help us out a lot. Let's try to get those likes over 100 here in the next couple of minutes. Storolenko or Patolo, DraftKings single entry.
Ooh. Give me Stolyarenko, bro.
Yeah, I'd probably say Storolenko too. Weidman or James, DraftKings cash.
Give me James.
Who are the top 3 non-stack fights?
Man. I don't think you stack Lewis and Olynyk. I don't see that going beyond 3. Stewart Patolo could be interesting as a stackable fight based on a striking match.
Tucker James?
Yeah, Star Pulling means too. Those are 3 fights that I probably would stack if I was doing that. You know, you guys know I don't like doing that.
No. Is fading Zalal a bad idea? I would say yes.
I don't know about a bad idea because he does only average 73 DraftKings points, but I think this is a nice spot, juicy matchup. Does he pay off 9,300 if he gets a sub TKO? Most likely, but what happens if Peter Barrett's too tough and just doesn't go away?
Could he land 125 significant strikes in 15 minutes?
he's more of a matador and more of an elusive fighter. So I don't know if he really is going to stand and trade so much. I love Zalal, though.
Bigger question: who's scoring the fight for Fight Metric, and do they have Peter Bear in any lineup?
Yeah, right. Goodness gracious, great question, bro.
I hope Fight Metric bans are people who score fights in terms of striking stats from playing DFS.
I'm sure they do.
I would have to imagine they would, but yeah, sometimes we see the unofficial stats, and then when those official stats come in, you're just like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, nowhere near it.
Yeah. Storolenko Potolo or Sanchez Ali, DraftKings GPP.
I would say the Sanchez Alexi is safer, but the Storolenko Potolo definitely has more upside.
Russell says, I want to fade Lewis in FanDuel, but if he gets a finish in the first or second, he's scoring over 100.
Yep.
Hard to pass, right?
The FanDuel setup, man, favoring strikers, bro. Going to be defending takedowns and making them pay. So I think it's a pay up spot for me. I think on DraftKings, it's something that maybe you can pivot.
Is Storolenko James combo fine for cash in FanDuel?
Yeah, I like it.
I know this is a question we kind of answered before, but I'll get to just in case people are joining the show and haven't heard us say it. Best MVP picks on FanDuel.
I think Staropoli, Lewis, but more than that is Zalal.
Yeah, and I think Zalal could have some real nice low ownership in that spot. Zalal or Lewis on DraftKings? If I drop Lewis, I can't afford Zalal.
Who's more likely to get a finish? Lewis. Who's
got the higher upside? I don't know the answer. I really don't. Because, I mean, yes, if Derek Lewis get the first round win, man, he can really score well for you.
Right.
It's like, and you always talk about with these, 5-round fights is the last thing you want is a 3rd-round stoppage.
I'd probably say Zalal's the safer.
Okay, I asked you this over-under 85 points with Derek Lewis. Over-under 85 points, Yusuf Zalal.
Over. I say over. You say under?
No, I'm laughing about a comment.
Oh, okay.
Samuel goes, Jason loves trolling Pete. Pure entertainment.
Always, bro. Always. Drives me nuts.
Oh, man. Oh, man. All right. That's a great comment. Hugh says, I'm fading the main event. Every entry, wish me luck. Oof.
Well, okay. If Derek Lewis doesn't, say Derek Lewis wins, right? And he doesn't score high, you could literally jump up the rankings by avoiding this fight and pivoting to elsewhere. So I don't think it's a terrible strategy if you are bold. If you're bold, I think that's a nice strategy.
So I just pulled up our FanDuel ownership.
Yeah.
So your top 3 at MVP are Kevin Holland 18%, Yusuf Zalal 13%, Derek Lewis 10%.
Really? Zalal's coming in that high, huh?
It's interesting. Yeah, in terms of ownership, Kevin Holland 51%, Justin James 44%, Derek Lewis 36%.
Wow, I agree with all those. That's warranted.
Let's look over on FanDuel side of the thing. We still have Derek Lewis at 41%. Second highest, Kevin Holland, number 1 at 46%. We always talk about who's the guy we're not talking about. You mentioned Holtzman earlier. Should we be talking about Gavin Tucker?
So Gavin Tucker looked incredible against Sam Cecilia, right? Sam Cecilia somewhat has a similar game to Justin James of throwing big looping shots and hunting KOs and really being one-dimensional. Now, I don't want to label Justin James as one-dimensional because he does have wrestling in his back pocket, but how does he fight? Does he use it? Not really.
No.
Tucker could literally replicate that performance from Sam Cecilia fight here, where he dances around and lights him up on the feet. And in his previous fight, his last fight, he resorted to the takedowns and working for a submission win. I just don't know if Tucker's big enough and strong enough to do that to Justin James. But how is James's cardio? We don't know. I think James is in a nice spot right here. Somebody who we not talking about.
Wellington Thurman?
Yeah, we haven't talked about Wellington Thurman. So, like, he's aggressive. He's young. And if Sanchez has, bad cardio this fight, like he tends to do almost every fight, and he's facing a guy who's bigger and stronger and really having to defend a lot, maybe Thurman can get a finish here. I have some Thurman because I like him, but I don't know if it's via the takedown. I think it could be finding a shot, getting behind him, and scoring some ground and pound. But Tim Means at 7,900, before I saw the weigh-ins, is somebody I was looking at. Now, not so much, man. Now, not so much.
Someone asks, says, do you like Stewart more than Lewis? I think the upside is higher on Lewis. I feel more comfortable Stewart winning the fight.
You are crazy. Stop that. Really?
Okay, if Derek Lewis can easily get taken down and get submitted pretty easily.
I don't think that's happening.
When you see Derek Lewis get taken down, it's more using pure strength to get up than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that my fear is he gets taken down early in the fight.
Yeah.
They're not sweaty, and it's going to be easier for Olynyk. I think Stewart, as long as he grapples. If you told me I got to play one or the other, I'd probably go Derek Lewis.
Yeah, it's Lewis for me, and I don't think that's close, but I understand what you're saying. I'm checking out the weigh-in results right here. So Derek Lewis weighed in, Jason, at 265. Alexi Oleinik weighed in at 227. 227.
Alexi's not a big heavyweight.
Man, I don't know. Give me Lewis here.
By the way, we got 30 minutes before lock. Also coming up in 30 minutes, we got MLB live before lock with Emac and Adam. So be sure to stick around to watch those guys. Get you ready for tonight's MLB slate. Let's get back to the questions here. Lewis ownership is way too high. I don't disagree with that.
Everybody's banking on that Lewis is going to go out there and get a third round KO.
Yeah.
If he finishes them in rounds 1 and 2, because the smaller cage forces the action, you could be on the outside looking in by not having Derek Lewis.
Singer says, realize I have little to no exposure to Thurman. Might miss a take. What's your guys' take on Wellington? We just kind of talked about that.
Yeah.
Captain spot on SuperDraft. Let me pull up the SuperDraft captain spots here. So a captain, looking at that multiplier, I mean, Derek Lewis at 1.65 times is interesting. Star Poli 1.9. James 2.1.
James is nice there. That's a nice one.
If you wanted to go more safe, Kevin Holland 1.6.
Yeah, I like. Give me Kevin Holland there. Give me Star Poli at 1.9. Yeah, I like both of those.
How do you rank Rivera, Dariush, Stewart, Akhmedov for FanDuel cash? So we got Rivera, Dariush, Stewart, Akhmedov.
Rivera, Dariush, Stewart, Akhmedov.
I will say
Stewart might be one of my favorites of that selection.
I would go 1 Dariush, 2 Stewart, 3 Rivera, Akhmedov 4.
I actually agree with you. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Someone asked, "Is this one of those cards okay to fade the main event?" I don't think it's a bad idea. Is James a must for cash?
If you're not playing James, you're probably playing Sanchez.
Let's see here. YouTube did the auto scroll me real quick, so trying to get back to where I was at in the questions. Best value for cash. He's saying he likes Holtzman, James, and Sanchez.
Those are three nice underdogs that could definitely come through. Holtzman at 7,100 is almost criminal. And it's definitely a winnable fight if he implements the correct game plan.
Will a 4-2 lineup set win all the money tonight? And he says underdogs / favorites. So 4 underdogs, 2 favorites. Woo. When I was doing some lineups, I was more either 3-3 or 4-2, 4 favorites, 2 underdogs.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd say 4 favorites, 2 underdogs.
If Tucker wins, is it by decision?
I could see submission.
Yeah. I just think that James is going to push the pace, and I think it's going to force that engagement.
Mm-hmm.
2 low-owned underdogs, 2 chalk favorites, 2 midfield, 30% owned. I'm guessing that's based on more of the question of the lineup setup. Sarpolsky, what's that?
So for the high end, I'd say that Lewis and Holland are going to carry some of the highest ownership, so they're going to be chalk.
That's why I think you got to look at Zalal.
Yeah, I like Zalal as a pivot.
Yeah. Sarpoli and Nazareth or Lewis and Sanchez?
Starpoli and Nazareth.
Ali over Staropoli?
Ooh, I don't know. How is he going to respond to his UFC debut? That's a big one. Ali over
I would feel...
Staropoli?
Yeah. Or actually, no, Olynyk, excuse me.
Okay, that's a better question. That's close.
Yeah.
I think Kuniskaya has fought some legit competition and some wins over some legit competition. So maybe Ali against Rivera is a better pick.
Yeah. Someone says Barrett is the one no one is talking about.
Yeah, so Barrett pushes a nice pace, has an 82% finish rate, does resort to takedowns, scored 4 in his Contender Series fight, but his striking defense is at 33% in that Contender Series fight, and if you think about what Youssef Zalal can do on the feet, it's a very, very tough fight to fight.
Holtzman looks interesting on DraftKings. Did Dariush look out of shape? Holtzman has a lot of 100-point wins behind him. Am I guessing something? I was looking at Holtzman's wins.
But the reason he has high score, Jason, is because he goes for takedowns. So he's usually the dominant wrestler, and he's the guy that puts people on their back. I do not think that Holtzman is going to look for the same game plan. He's going to look to keep it on the feet and punish him. So if he doesn't get the TKO, can he outperform his salary at 7,100?
Holtzman's best win is Jim Miller's last fight. No doubt.
Right. Yeah.
Who's his second best win? Dong Young Ma, Alan Patrick, Daryl Horscher, Michael McBride, Cody Pfister.
Dong Young Ma. Beneil's fought legit guys.
Yeah.
I think
it's a step up in competition. I think there's no doubt about it. Oleinik Zalal or Patolo Lewis.
God, I just want to the barf emoji for this entire card for me.
What, you're going to go out and win like 100K tonight?
I hope so. I would say Zalal and Patolo.
By the way, be sure to smash it. Let's get those likes over 125 here next couple minutes. We're gonna start to wrap the show up here in a couple of moments. Kind of just scrolling down, get some questions that we haven't really got to so far here in the show. Who are your top highest owner underdogs? So looking at projections,
Justin
underdogs,
James.
Yeah, Justin James 36%. Chris Weidman 33%. I think he's on the favorite in that one.
Yeah.
Olynyk 27%. Tim Means 24%. Patolo 22%.
Can you give me the 3 lowest fighters owned?
Alex Munoz, Joaquin Buckley, Peter Barrett.
Munoz is somebody that maybe that's a leverage play, guys. And I know that Jason's married to Nasrat Haqparast this card, but I think that Munoz can literally...
I expect my apology in a couple hours.
Look, it's a leverage play because of the matchup. When you're fighting a guy who's a southpaw with a big wrestling background, who trains with the likes of high-level kickboxers at CSA of Gaston Bolanos, I think it's an interesting spot. I really do. I think that Munoz coming in so low is somebody you need to look at as a potential breakthrough performance.
Interesting question here from Franklin. He goes, got to line up with 3.7 and 2.8K. Need one more good pick. I have 11K left. Who do y'all think at 11K?
Who's he rostering?
He's got to have some low end options.
My
you
God.
got that kind of money. Holland, Zalal.
Yeah, give me Zalal.
Yeah.
I got to make sure I got a Munoz lineup now.
Here's an interesting thought here from Randall. How much chalk can you eat for bigger tourneys?
So getting away from chalk is not always a good thing, because if you know somebody's in a smash spot, right? So like for basketball, if you know somebody's sitting out, say Damian Lillard's sitting out and CJ McCollum's super underpriced, you're going to put CJ McCollum in there and not think twice about it, because they're going to exceed their salary. They're going to have more usage. If you can find somebody in here who's going to carry heavy ownership, who's a massive favorite that you think is going to have a nice score, I would say Zalal. You ride with it, man. You don't try to pivot away from it.
Are you concerned with Dariush's missing weight?
Yes and no. Later rounds, how does that affect his cardio? Early on, he could sneak out a nice submission win here.
Dariush MVP slot on FanDuel.
I feel like there's better options on FanDuel for MVP spot.
The only thing I would say about that is, I think if you're trying to be contrarian,
it's definitely contrarian. He's probably coming in what, single digits?
Let me look here. He is almost 9%.
It's a nice ownership.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at some of the lower ones, I mean, man, Justin James, if you think he's going to get a finish quick, 3% in the MVP spot.
Yeah. It's just, can he get a hold of him? Smaller cage could help Justin James out in this situation where you have a guy who's moving around so much.
Nate says, remind me why you guys are so high on Storolenko. What's her path? I'm currently too big on Kunaskayev.
Maybe Kunaskaya is somebody we're not talking about enough. She should be able to get the win here. I mean, she's married to her boyfriend and girlfriend with Thiago Santos, so I would imagine her game is good striking now, some decent jiu-jitsu. But Thiago Santos doesn't have the best jiu-jitsu. And if you think about what Eric Spicely did to him, and if she's working with him exclusively for that, maybe she's underestimating Stoliarenko's pace and her ability to put herself in bad positions to seek out armbar victories. So Kunitskaya has the striking advantage, but the volume and aggressiveness and a smaller cage could work in Stoliarenko's favor.
Matt brings up a great point about MVP on FanDuel.
What?
Alexi Oleinik.
If you think he's going to win.
3%. And he's right now Alex's third best chance to be the top scorer on FanDuel.
Yeah.
He wins. It's going to be a great score. If he wins.
Yeah, he wins. He busts the slate regardless of platform.
Who's the fighter's going to bust the slate tonight?
Could be Stoliarenko. If I was a gambling man and I had to really pick somebody that nobody's talking about that could ruin a lot of people, could be Munoz.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Buckley. I think Buckley would be the big. I think Buckley would be the bigger one because I think Holland's ownership is going to be so large.
Or Peter Barrett.
Yeah. No one's talking about Peter Barrett. I'm just kind of looking at it saying who, I feel like we really haven't. If you start thinking of who could be contrarian that ultimately end up in the optimal, maybe it's Omari Akhmedov, Scott Holtzman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, if Munoz or Buckley or Barrett win, they're in the optimal.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah. I already know what you're laughing about.
Cam.
I know what you're laughing about, but yeah. But coming up next here on Awesemo.com, we've got MLB Live Before Lock with EMAC and Adam. I'll be watching them to see what they're liking for tonight's MLB slate. Of course, speaking of MLB, I'll be a part of the Early Bird podcast tomorrow night. Myself and Terry will get you ready for Monday slate of MLB action, so be sure to check out that. We'll leave on this last question. Morgan says, what is the must-watch fight of the night?
For me, it is Akhmedov Weidman, just because I want to see how Weidman bounces back.
See, now I'm looking at this question of what's going to be the fight that's just a very fun, fan-friendly fight to watch. I say Gavin Tucker, Justin James.
Star pulling means.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. But of course, be sure to give Pete and I a follow on social media. He is at Pete the Heat MMA. I am at Jason_Floyd. We'll be in that premium channel on Slack. So you have any thoughts for the fights or even during the fights, me and Pete will both be in there. So be sure to check that out. As I mentioned, MLB Live Before Lock coming up next. And of course, we'll be back next Thursday for the UFC. What is it? 253? 252?
I don't know.
Whatever number is. Millionaire contest on DraftKings next week. So something to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. So we'll be back next Thursday for the strategy show. So this has been the UFC Vegas number 6 Live Before Lock show right here on Awesemo.com.